Hello again. In this video, I'm creating a tile set for a game idea that I've been playing around in my head for ages. And even though I can't really work on it right now because I have other things to finish, I still wanted it to sort of create this setting so that I kind of remember what I have in my mind. So this character I've made in a previous stream. It's also available on the YouTube channel as a time lapse for the creation of both the poses and animations. But here I'm mostly creating the tiles, and I'm using that character as reference because that is the character that I've designed for the game. So I start by creating this pattern on the tile that I'm using here, which is a 32 by 32 tile. And this is the biggest one, and I really just start with the biggest one because it gives you more room to explore potential patterns. And right now I'm not really going anywhere. I just thought of having like this hero tile where you can kind of see a mask or a face on it. But then I kind of realized that those rings around the tile kind of remind me of the sand gardens where you use a rake to create those wave patterns. So I kind of run with it. Here I'm just showing the previous sprite sheet for the character because people in the chat are asking about it, and I just show it. So here I take the big tile and I convert it into the small tile by just erasing the content in the center and pulling in the edges. Here I'm creating some variety from one tile to the other by either breaking stuff up or removing a certain amount of, not grass, but I'm mostly looking at this as maybe moss. It wasn't supposed to be. I was just looking for a specific teal color. And then I just started thinking about adding the grass. Grass is a bit of a cliche in platform games, but it also acts as a very good reminder of what the surface is. Here I was just explaining something about pixel art and about simplification and knowledge. So here's a vertical tile which I created basically using the same process. I took the 32 by 32 and deleted the vertical middle, and I just sort of moved the edges closer together to create the 16 by 32 version. And here I'm explaining, explaining again here the creation of like a brick wall, simplified, but again, I think the stream sort of derailed a little bit, but it was fun. It was very fun to actually do all those examples. And here I create this, I don't know, shape for the horizontal one. I'm really not having a theme here. I'm not worried about the theme. So here I just make some variation for the big one. And I'm adding an extra bright color just to really create a line for where the character is going to walk. And at this point, I think I'm kind of happy with the amount of pieces that I have. So I start thinking about decorations. So here's a stone lantern. And I think it looks a little too strong now, but I'm going to fix that by adjusting the background color. I take all my tiles and I kind of spread them across as a platform. Here I'm explaining the angle of the lantern and picking a color for the light, because I want it to have a light, but I don't want it to have too strong a light, because otherwise it will just be, it would push itself forward in depth in the game. Here I'm creating a bamboo fence, and it's pretty much just one tile, which I then copy and paste. But I think eventually I will create a variation because I want that front piece of the fence to actually have light on the tip. And here I'm creating a torii gate, again, just for the background. And by this point in my life, I may have created like 200 torii gates in my pieces. But I really like them. I think they're a really simple iconic motif or design that you can add just to create a setting, which I really quite love. And they're very tile friendly because they're pretty much like a door frame, or I think they're literally a door frame, that you can kind of create as a big shape, but that you can kind of create with very little tiles. So that's why it's interesting. But this one I take for the longest time to fix it, because right now it kind of feels like it's a little too drawn in. It doesn't look like a shape, it looks like a line work piece. And that's kind of phasing me off a little bit. I try to fix it, and I go about adding more shadows, about adding outlines here and there, but it's just because it's the same color as the background. Because I do like that warm gray in the background, but also kind of feels like it's just an outline. So here I'm adding more tiles because I want to create depth. I want to take some of those tiles that are not touching the top, and I want to make them darker. And by doing that, I'm hoping to create a sense of depth. Because they have the grass on the top, I have to actually go in and darken the grass a little bit so that it doesn't push the tiles forward. And here I'm experimenting with a few things. I'm trying to bring all the colors one step down, like here, for example, but a lot of the detail is lost. And then I just decide to just, gradually bring all the colors down. I'm also here substituting the grass of those tiles by a sense of shading or shadow. And I think the effect ended up being interesting. Here I'm creating a vine, and I'm experimenting with coloring. You can see I'm going to push it forward just by making it really bright. That was too fast to notice, but if you do something really bright when it's underneath something that's dark, you kind of push it forwards towards the camera. And I'm playing with that here by making that leaf bright. I'm bringing it on this side. Also, of course, it overlaps the original vine, but I'm playing with that to suggest depth. And here I'm adding some highlights to sort of make the vine twist a little bit because it just gives it a little bit more visual interest. And I'm adding a few more decorations here. I had to look up, because I was thinking of doing like a tombstone. I had to look up a Japanese tombstone. And again, I don't want it to be too bright. And I'm scattering some of the moss around, even though the ones that I saw didn't really have that much moss. But I kind of wanted to keep it within the same sort of theme environment. And I just had to make it a little bit wider. I also add a plant, and it takes me a while to figure out the shading there. And I think in the end, I just go like, it's not too relevant, that I need to get the shading just right. And here I'm making those transition pieces just by copying and pasting that tile and erasing parts of it, just to make the connections between the spaces where the gaps are really, really square. So here I create a new color, and I add that into the Torii gate, and I quite like it. It looks like bare wood, that like roughed out bare wood. And I also add a couple of details, like parts of the tombstone that were chiseled out. And that was a suggestion by someone in the chat whose name I don't remember now. I'm sorry. And here I create a different level. This is supposed to be like a walkway on wood, like a catwalk on wood that is supported up by some beams. I wanted it to look like it was different boards of wood, but I also wanted it to not be too different, because right now I think it looks too checkery. It looks like it's too much of a checkerboard. And I kind of tie the wood together with those pixel art ropes, which is pretty much what they are. And I just fix here the colors so that it doesn't look so much like a checkered board. And this is what it ended up looking like. It was about an hour and a half stream. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys learned something, and see you again. Take care.